The day is coming when we will no longer understand dystopian fiction or parody. This is bad news for those of us who love movies like Shrek and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. In the not too distant future, people will stop reading George Orwell's 1984 because they just won't get it. They won't understand why Winston would put up such a fight. I know you were excited to one day share the Hunger Games with your children or your grandchildren, but when that day comes, they will neither understand it or enjoy it. Sadly, time is running out for dystopian fiction and parody. Why? Let's start with the dystopias. Dystopian fiction presents a hideous future. What makes the future so terrible? Well, that's the interesting thing about dystopian fiction. It's something different every time. Dystopian stories, as ugly as they are actually quite positive. They show us a possible future if we, our culture or society, continues down the same path that we are on. So Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale shows us what might happen if we continue to think of human beings, particularly women, in terms of the roles they fill, rather than as individual human beings worthy of our respect. Veronica Roth's Divergent offers us a world in which society makes all the decisions for you. So we could consider that as a warning against groupthink. This genre has explored all kinds of different topics since the middle of the last century, with Brave New World in 1932, 1984 and 1949, and Fahrenheit 451 in 1953. In recent years, dystopian narratives have become the staple for young adult fiction, with each novel or series of novels covering a different topic, offering a different warning. Alas, a time is coming when we simply won't understand any of these stories. When this happens, we will stop reading the old ones, and we will cease creating the new ones. And this will not be because we have arrived at some form of utopia. It's because we will have ceased to accept the central tenet of all dystopian narratives: the inherent value of human beings. The one thing that all dystopian narratives have in common, and from which they derive their energy, is that some good thing has been put above human beings. In 1984, it was power. In Brave New World, it was pleasure. In Logan's Run, it's youth. In The Hunger Games, it's peace. These are all good things, but the idea is you don't sacrifice a human being to get it. This is what is happening in our culture. When human beings are no longer thought of as valuable, the genre that is built on that principle will cease to be relevant. My hope is that the understanding of human value is so profound in us that rather than going along with anti-human exceptionalism, someone will write a dystopian novel about the hideous future that may be a result of this turn. Now, what about parody? Why is that in danger? A parody is an imitation of a type of literature or film or music or art, in which the characteristics are exaggerated to create a humorous effect. Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes is a parody of the chivalric romances that were popular in his day. Shaun of the Dead is a humorous imitation of Dawn of the Dead. The first lines of Pride and Prejudice is, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife." The first line of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies is, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a zombie in possession of brains must be in want of more brains." Parody relies on the uniqueness of the various styles or genres. A Shakespearean drama is a different sort of thing than a rom-com, and both of these are very different from an American Western, or a German fairy tale, or a Greek epic. All of these styles are quite unmistakable. Once you are familiar with one, you are not likely to confuse it with something else. So what happens to parody when the boundaries between these different categories cease to exist? That's what pastiche does. It erases those boundaries. Pastiche is an imitation of sorts as well. But unlike parody, pastiche has no ulterior motive. Parody often has a whiff of satire about it, some impulse to expose a bit of foolishness. At the very least, parody hopes to offer some pleasure when some higher things are brought down to earth through comedy. Pastiche is parody that has lost its sense of humor. Pastiche is imitation without any meaning. It's just the mask. According to social theorist Frederick Jameson, one of the most significant features of cultural postmodernism is pastiche. The whole idea of a literary style is rooted in something approaching an absolute, a universal idea by which we can determine into which category a literary work fits. Postmodernism does not cotton to these universals. So a movie set in the medieval era can have the audience of a jousting tournament sing Queen's "We Will Rock You." And speaking of Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody is pastiche in that it imitates various styles including a cappella, ballad, opera, and rock and roll. Without universal categories that differentiate various literary or artistic styles, we lose the ability to imitate a style for humorous effect. We lose parody. Pastiche kills parody. So now I think I should give you a bit of a disclaimer. For the record, I love Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody, and A Knight's Tale, and the best of pastiche, which often honors the work it imitates. And actually, I'm not really that much of a parody fan, except for that Bill Burr sketch that I referenced from Saturday Night Live. But this idea that the new mental landscapes may be the death of one of my favorite genres? Well, I thought that was worth sharing. Dystopian fiction and parody are still around, but I don't know for how long. So enjoy them while you can. Thank you, and we will see you next time.